Hello and welcome to the IGN UK podcast. I think the first of this trinity with myself, Gav Murphy, and Luke Kamali.
Hello, I'm here too.
I did say that before we started the podcast, and as you said that, I was like, no, we've definitely done this before.
All right, then. Well, but it doesn't matter. It's the first time that we've done it this week.
It is, yeah.
So,
Yes.
it's a week of firsts.
Yes, it is.
The big talking point from this week was obviously that the Witcher dev CD Projekt Red came out and basically fessed up saying that the early demos, Witcher 3, looked better than the final game.
Yeah.
Like, you've got the full story.
Yeah, so basically it was an interview with Eurogamer, and they said that initial trailer that came out at VGX, I think about 2 years ago, they said, that was a gameplay demo running on PC.
Yeah.
And then the final version came out and people have been like, why isn't this good? So they made two key points, really. So
I don't think they said, why isn't this good?
Oh no, why isn't it? Why doesn't it look as good? A lot of people have been saying, first of all, they say they don't really necessarily agree with that. But they've said they can appreciate that that's some people's opinion. And they said two key points. One, people were saying that the PS4 and Xbox One versions had dragged the PC version back, so they had to kind of make it for the lowest common denominator.
Yep.
They disagreed with that and said, not true, because if there wasn't a console version, we couldn't have made it because of the same scale.
Well, they didn't say not true. What they said was, if they only focused on the PC version, they could have made it slightly better,
but
probably
it
not
be the
up
game.
not up to the standard of what it would have been, but if viably business wise, they can't do it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the game that we
That's
have.
a really odd excuse as well. It's like, look, if we were just making the PC version, we could have made it good. But no, you want a console version, so it's got to be shit.
But they're like, it's not quite what they said.
It's not rubbish. Let's be specific.
And then the other one the other point that they made was, so we've talked about this before, but obviously stuff we see at gameplay shows and stuff like E3, Gamescom, that's what we call a vertical slice. So it's basically...
I hate that phrase.
Yeah, that's a marketing phrase, not an editorial phrase. We shouldn't be using that.
It's
unless we're talking about cake, then I'm well up for a vertical slice.
Basically, it is a little snippet of gameplay that they've polished to the nth degree.
Taster, if you will.
Yes, they've polished to the nth degree and they've brought out, so it's not representative of the finished thing. So yes, they managed to make that bit, fantastic, but then once they had to populate the open world, make everything happen, it suddenly became evident, it's probably not going to be able to run at this quality. Yeah. But that doesn't become evident until later in the process. So they're always going to be aiming as high as they can at the time, so they're not trying to mislead people with those early demos. But since this story's gone up, actually yesterday they have now released a patch for PC aiming to polish, and a console version's coming. So they're still polishing.
So they managed to fix it overnight.
Well, not fixed it. This is the thing. They're just trying to they're trying to improve it again.
But I don't understand this. Like, are people shocked that what they see 2 years before, like an early game demo, is not representative of the final thing?
Yeah.
Are people generally shocked by that?
If you look at movies, like you look at the Jurassic World trailer,
and
everyone was like, "That looks terrible," and then as it goes along, it gets better.
That's right.
Whereas with games, it tends to go the other way.
But then I guess, if I'm buying a game, I'm not buying a game based on something I saw 2 years ago. True. I'm not going, oh my god, I'm buying that game because of that amazing thing that I saw.
But this is the thing, you've got to kind of think. You look at, when people look at gameplay trailers and stuff on YouTube, they're not us. We are exposed to these games almost every step of the way. So we see the kind of slow deterioration or whatever, or the way it goes. But the average consumer will just be like, oh yeah, let's see Witcher 3 gameplay and look at it. And, maybe not think that it's from that long ago. And also, you look at all the GIFs and stuff that happen in the comments. They're the GIFs that are made when the game looks its best. Remember when there's still Drive Club GIFs floating around from that early demo where, look how beautiful it is and stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's from...
Yeah, but I think Drive Club actually now
Drive Club's
better.
good.
Yeah. But so to answer your point, I think it depends on how different the original is from the end, because I think
how different is this?
I don't think it's massively different. It's still a beautiful looking game.
Exactly.
And anybody who says that it isn't is just
my big issue with it is there's quite a lot of pop-ins. So it pops in and then it renders quickly, and the draw distance has some issues. I think the big issue, certainly that I've noticed when I've been playing it, is you start a cutscene, and the cutscene will start, and obviously not all the trees or everything are rendered, and then as the cutscene goes on, it pops.
Right.
But you don't really care that much. I mean, similarly, I would say...
Does that ruin the experience for
No,
you?
and I would say the facial, animations aren't necessarily quite up to the standard that we've seen in stuff like Dragon Age. But it doesn't matter, because it's such a huge achievement, and it's so kind of... It's still the fact that it's still that engaging.
But there was a
and it's
load
gameplay,
of,
surely.
If you look at Skyrim, that was bugged to hell when that first launched.
Completely.
And a lot of people have kind of forgotten about that now, and it still has this legacy of being this amazing role-playing game.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been no... touch wood, I haven't discovered any game-breaking bugs yet. Like, there was that one in Skyrim, whenever you went in water on the PS3 version, it would lock up, and that was it. Yeah. And, that they took them about, 3 months to fix it. And I had a quest in the middle of a cave where you had to swim, out, and it was just well, that's me done,
I think the opposite end of the scale is like Watch Dogs, because when they first showed that at E3, that was mind-blowing. Yeah. And then when the game came out, I was like, and it was a combination of how it looked, but also how you interacted with the world.
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
Completely fluid in the demo, and then the game.
It doesn't actually work there. And the same with, I think, because I actually genuinely don't care about any of this. I'm not that kind of, that kind of gamer where I'll be like, oh, this graphic has changed or anything like that. I'm not, I play games all the time, but I'm not an idiot on the internet. It's just it doesn't look as good as
you are an idiot.
I mean, you are an idiot on the internet. But you're a professional idiot on the internet.
It just how you make a living. It just doesn't bother me. I can't. It saddens me that this is the most read story on our site.
But I kind of think that's partly as well. It's a lot of PC gamers as well. Obviously, it's part of a kind of. It's part of the culture as well. You are aiming to get the most out of your rig and constantly get the most. And so I think because it was specifically being this is the PC version of the game, all the most recent things on console, I think the expectations maybe have been a bit okay, this is what consoles are at the moment. But I think PC gamers who have maybe really high-end machines being we can push this. And to discover that they can't, I think that's maybe a bit
Rockstar an extra year to do that with GTA and an entire team of goodness knows how many people.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So it's kind of you could, would PC gamers, and I don't know, I'm not a PC gamer, maybe, if you're a PC gamer, write in, would you have rather waited a year for slightly better graphics, or play it now when it looks, in my eyes, perfectly reasonable? I'm the same as you, Gav. The whole kind of this is not true 1080p 60. It's but my eyes can't tell the difference.
The reaction to it...
I don't think anybody can. I think it's like snake oil. It's like Emperor's New Clothes. It's just I can tell the difference. Can you? I think GameSpot did a really good thing, actually, where they got a bunch of people and did blind tests, right? Where they were okay,
presumably not blind because they had to be able to see.
But as in they didn't know if it was 60 frames per second, and they were can you tell the difference? Yeah. No one could tell the difference.
Really?
For certain genres, I know for certain genres it's more important than others.
Racing games in terms of frame rate. Exactly.
But I think the reason that this has done so well is CD Projekt Red, has a reputation of being very straight talking, and they have come out and been it is an issue, we are trying to resolve it. We never tried to mislead anyone. And they also made the point that, and as you say, likening it to Watch Dogs, Ubisoft at the same time announced 9 different kind of collector's editions and all of this with content locked off. It's just it shows the different attitudes that devs kind of can have to it.
I mean, publishers as well. We've written down here, our early game demos too misleading, and I would say that maybe they are, but I don't really know if
it's deliberate.
The only one that I think, that was terrible is Aliens Colonial Marines.
Yes.
Whatever happened with that game, there's so many different theories and urban legends about how they went about making that game. But if you look at the early version of that and then look at the actual final version, that is disgusting. But this isn't. I don't think this is the same.
Because that's the point as well. He says, the graphics took a hit, but the world, the gameplay, that got better. And that's kind of what you want, because that's what a game is at the end of the day. It's not something just to visually consume. And so the one that kind of sticks in my craw about early game demos is Destiny as well, because there's urban legends about what happened with that. All these stuff from the trailers that never kind of made it into the game, and all of that, and just something. There's rumours that stuff went on there and stuff was pulled at the 11th hour.
Or
not graphically, gameplay. There was meant to be a lot more and a lot of more of an interconnected world.
That'll come though, surely. Because
but the point is, it was meant to be in the original game, and either it was with horrible.
But when you're announcing a game 2 years from when it's coming out, that's you're going to have this wish list that's that long. And at some point during the production period, it will have to be tailored down to hit release. Otherwise, games will never come out. So and that's the thing. Would you rather have a game demo that at E3 that you were holy shit, that blew me away, and the game almost lived up to that, or something you went, that looks okay, I'm not bothered. Well, if you're a games company, you want to blow people's socks off.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, again, I think part of it does come down to it's hard for us to tell because we are so immersed in it. Barely a week goes by when we don't get a new Witcher trailer or something. We've seen that stuff. Maybe for someone who isn't quite so clued in and has just been following it bit by bit, suddenly the final product comes out and they're like, whoa, where did this massive drop come? And you're like, well, actually it isn't, if you've been following it all the way through like we have, but it's our jobs.
Yeah.
But then I mean, like, even though we did quite a lot on Witcher stuff, I wasn't going every week. Oh, that's looking rubbish. No, like I didn't.
Well, it doesn't look. And
No, it
that's
doesn't.
the
It
whole
doesn't.
point.
It's the point that it doesn't.
And we're talking, incremental improvements. We're not talking like Watch Dogs or, as you say, Aliens Colonial Marines.
That was an awful one, wasn't it?
But anyway, if you would rather have a demo that didn't look quite so good, then do let us know. Or do you think it's fair that we're seeing vertical slices of nice cake? IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about the stuff that we like and the stuff that we don't. And I've got a new name for this.
Yeah.
What? Oh.
It's rum stuff and bum stuff.
You
like it?
Why
Yeah.
rum stuff?
I
I do
know.
like it, but I
Do you
don't
know
know
what?
why.
Rum's like it's good.
Booze.
Isn't it?
We like
Oh,
rum, yeah.
What?
Like booze.
Oh, I thought you said
Like boobs.
no. Like that
Rum.
rum stuff. That means it's good.
That I have heard
I'm
that
on board.
phrase.
I am on board. I just don't know why.
What's weird is that just came to me as I was walking down Tottenham Court Road this
Rum
morning.
stuff and
So
bum
rum
stuff.
stuff and bum stuff. I was like,
Just like,
I
like that.
I want a drink and I want some ass.
You've sold me on it. Rum stuff and bum stuff.
Brilliant.
So let's take it off with the rum stuff then.
So my bit of rum stuff is this week I've been on a trip, a lovely little trip, which didn't go off as smoothly as I would have liked, but never mind.
you had nobody to check in your luggage.
I had
That
nobody
was
to
the
check in my luggage.
God damn it.
I know, right? And so I went to France to see the expansion for Final Fantasy XIV, Heaven's Ward. Can't talk about my impressions on that yet, but that will be up first thing next
Oh
week.
no!
just tell us
Because
about
I really want your impressions on a Final Fantasy XIV expansion.
Oh wow! Thanks for that, Gav. But basically, it's
This seems like there's a Final Fantasy XIV expansion like every week or
This
something.
is the first
like that.
expansion since the game has been released.
It feels like you talk about Final Fantasy a lot.
I do talk about Final Fantasy a lot
But why?
because it's good.
What's the expansion?
I'm not. No, I just want
not allowed to talk about
I'm
it.
not allowed to talk about it. Is the like listen?
You'll have to wait.
Oh my God.
No, but I met Yoshida, who's the guy who basically redid the game from the ground up, and it was just a really, really nice interview. And there's some really good stuff that I'm going to release from that next week.
Yoshida's a Dragon Quest guy, right?
He's done stuff on that, yeah.
He's done quite a lot of Dragon Quest, I think.
And so he's kind of a big name in Square Enix. But when they released Final Fantasy XIV, it was gash, and basically he then took the reins and completely revamped it and relaunched it, and now it's one of the biggest parts of Square Enix's income.
Yeah.
And so just talking to him about that, how it happened, and it's just really nice because we interview quite a lot of devs. It's really nice when you get into like that flow of an interview where it doesn't really feel like an interview anymore. It just feels like two people who are like fans of a game, fans of a genre, and just talking about it. Like we went off Final Fantasy XIV, just started talking about MMOs.
Yeah.
Was it through a translator?
Yes, but like it's the same with kind of a lot of the Japanese devs. You spend the entire interview doing it through a translator, and then at the end they talk to you in perfect English, and you're just like, oh right, okay, so you're going to tell me the entire time. Yeah, and they were like, yeah, so what do you think? What would you like to see? At the end, I was just like,
So is is this the only Final Fantasy game he's worked on then?
yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
He's but he did say in the interview, one of the things he did say, they have obviously big Final Fantasy meetings where all of the guys working on Final Fantasies talk, and so he hints at some possible, because we've seen in Final Fantasy XIV already, they've taken Triple Triad from one of the early Final Fantasy games. They've
Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, and they've got Lightning from.
You do know about
There you
Final
go.
Fantasy. Look.
Yeah, out yourself. Why don't you?
It sounds like I know more than you.
Yeah, I can't remember, like 7 and 8, don't get me started. And then also Lightning from 13, she appears in it. And so, yeah, he talked a bit about collaborations. So, yeah, it was a really, really good interview. But that was a rum thing that happened to me.
Can I ask a question? What is Final Fantasy XIV? Is it the online one?
Yeah, so it's the MMO that's on...
It's good to get that in there right at the end.
Good. It's the MMO that's on a PC, PS4, and PS3.
All right, wicked.
So, yeah. But, yeah, it's doing really well. And there's good stuff coming. So, yeah.
I don't understand Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm interested in this guy because I'm a massive Dragon Quest guy, and he's done like all of my favorite Dragon Quests. But I'm never going to play a Final Fantasy MMO. How many people play it?
I think the last number they had over 4 million.
Really?
Yeah. And bear in mind, it's a subscription MMO, which, and in the space that Warcraft traditionally dominates.
Yeah.
Warcraft subscribers are falling, and somehow Final Fantasies are still rising.
Is that predominantly in the East? Or in the
No,
West?
apparently not. Apparently worldwide. And it's again one of these things. So one of the big reasons I wanted to interview him, he years ago came out with this phrase, Final Fantasy XIV, the original release, seriously damaged the brand. And so his aim was to kind of rebuild it and repair it. And so I talked to him about that. And his thoughts are really, really interesting. And I think it's true. He has done... It's like this game has worked wonders. You see the comments on it.
What's he done though?
Well, they basically rebuilt it from the ground up. So whereas
Yeah, you keep
before-
saying that. That's a really marketing phrase as well. Vertical slice, ground up.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
been so.
I've been sold. Haven't
Someone's been bought a dinner by Square Enix.
Basically, actually it was by Air France, but that's another story. They basically originally when it was released, it was kind of a pale imitation. They basically, to a degree, took World of Warcraft, put a Final Fantasy skin on it, and were like, jobs are good and done. The server structure, everything about it just wasn't up to snuff, and it was just a pale imitation. And it wasn't really, and it felt very soulless as well, because it wasn't built with Final Fantasy fans in mind. So what they did was take all of those assets, repurpose them, create new stuff, and basically make an MMO that was Final Fantasy, because there's already Final Fantasy 11, which is another MMO, but for older consoles.
Oh, what?
And look, let's not go. Let's not
still
start
going,
this. It is still going, but they slowly put it on ice. They're slowly stopping. There was an expansion, I think, last year.
Do you play it? Do you play Final Fantasy 14?
14, yes. 11, no.
What do you play Final Fantasy 14 on? Is it PS4?
PS4 and PC.
Okay, right.
Is it transferable?
Yeah, so that's another thing that I love about it, because I can. So for example, the Elder Scrolls Online's coming out. Going to play that on my PlayStation, but then if the TV's
Are
busy,
you going to play that?
Yeah, I love MMOs. It's
Luke
like,
does love MMOs.
It's
Really?
like crack to me. Do
Yeah.
you not know this?
No.
God, yeah. So basically, and then I can play it on PC. I can go between the two. It's like, what a time to be alive, my
What a
friends.
time to be alive. Another Final Fantasy.
Listen,
What a time
well,
to be alive.
guys, Final Fantasy 15's coming next year, and you're all gonna want a slice. That's all I'm saying.
I want a
And not a
vertical
vertical one, a
slice.
horizontal one.
Okay.
What's been rum for you, Gav?
The Mad Men finale. Well, this is sort of rum and bum, really.
Okay.
Because
Are you gonna do spoilers?
nope.
Okay.
No, I won't. I'll just say that it's one of my favorite endings to a series.
Really?
Ever. Mad Men is the best. Well, was the best thing on TV. And now I feel like properly empty. I think there's nothing else like it on TV, and to have it end is a really, really sad thing.
So how many seasons were there?
7.
And was it pretty consistent throughout the whole 7 seasons?
I think so. Like they're not afraid to get rid of people. They're not afraid to just do crazy things. Have you watched any of it? Or
I watched certainly the first of the whole of the first season.
Okay,
Started on the second.
yeah.
It was quite slow for mine.
It's really, really slow. But those are the kind of shows that I really like. Sort of something when you don't realize what's
Something
actually
that's really slow.
No, but like it's not slow. It's just you
Just a
don't
slow burn.
You just don't realize how important some scenes are. I think, yeah. Like it's not like it's a slow show, but it's not like that's not a negative thing. I don't think. It's just it demands a lot of like your brain to be able to sort of like
I'm out.
really get
Yeah,
into
I'm checking out right away.
Yeah, go back to your Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I'm full of Final Fantasy, man.
I didn't see anybody punch anybody for ages.
Yeah.
But
But that's the thing, because Mad Men is so like it's all about like they get these big accounts and it's all about them working on these accounts.
Yeah.
But it's also
This sounds really
but
exciting.
it's all about like their characters and stuff as
Yeah.
well. Like the character progression is better than anything on TV. And it was just a really satisfying ending, but then also just a really, really sad one at the same time, because the last couple of episodes have just been insane.
What's the reaction to it been like?
Pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Like it's
'Cause
hard.
I've seen stuff floating around. I've never watched any of it.
Yeah.
So
It's got a really good ending with his different theories. I mean, me and
Okay.
Cooper both watched it, and we both were like, I don't understand how this sort of cross theory to what we think is even out there, because it's so blatantly obvious. But some people have gone, no, it's actually this, not what we think.
okay. Well, I suppose that's
unfortunately.
quite nice.
Which is quite good. It's kind of like sort of the end of Sopranos, like because a lot of people worked on the same things, and it's kind of like people think one thing about the end of Sopranos when it's actually the other thing. So, but I don't know. But
I've never seen The Sopranos.
haven't you?
No.
Neither have I.
You should watch that.
I've got some really big holes in my TV history.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Sopranos either.
What?
Or The Shield.
The Shield is
Or
okay.
no, The Wire.
The Wire is
Yeah.
really good.
Shield or The Wire better?
The Wire's better.
Yeah.
The Shield is a bit more exciting. The Wire's a lot slower.
Right.
But
But Wire's the one that everybody goes on about.
yeah. The Shield is really, really good. But something happened. Me and Tilly talked about this, because Tilly's really into the Shield as well.
Yeah.
Something like really nasty happens, like one of the first episodes, to a male character.
Yeah.
A very sexual thing.
Right.
And when I had the DVDs of the Shield, they were like sort of I think they were like bootleg, like Japanese ones my friend had brought back from Japan, and they had like the previously on the shield at the beginning of each one, and every single one of them had the same previously on. There was obviously something went wrong with the DVD, so the same previously on. So we basically saw this horrible sex thing happen
again and again
about 60 times.
Oh my
it was
God.
just like I think it's like 7 of us lived in the house watching it. It was just like fast forward it, I can't look at it again.
So that's, like, because I do most of my TV watching on the train,
and
it's just even the stuff like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's like it's so uncomfortable.
Oh, God,
watching stuff happening. It's like Game of Thrones, just Game of Thrones. That's all it is.
But yeah, no, the Mad Men finale, like it's really, really good. I was really happy with it, but at the same time, it was just like, you know, when a show ends and you just have that like complete emptiness, because I'm into other stuff, like I watch Game of Thrones, like I watch other things, but it's just not as good. And I always think whenever I'm watching Game of Thrones, I'm always excited, thinking, oh, Mad Men will be back soon. No, I don't have that. Like, I literally like, what is the best thing on TV now?
Well, so is this? Would you say that that's probably the best series that your favorite series of all time?
I think so. It probably just pipped Sopranos for me, but Sopranos and Mad Men are definitely on the absolute same level. I think.
What's yours?
Well, it's much shorter, but stuff like Band of Brothers.
Okay,
is, like, I
Band of
rewatched
Brothers is
that
good.
very recently. It's like, God, that is
Yeah.
I need to
amazing.
rewatch that actually.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Although the Blu-rays are balked. There's a problem with the audio sync. It's about a half second out. And that's one of my massive bugbears.
How have they done that?
I don't know, because I started watching it and then I because I bought it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And then, I Googled it and it's balked.
I would suggest I would have suggested until I found out last week, to get the Wire Blu-ray, because they're just about to redo it.
Yeah.
But I found out a really horrible thing. So like David Simon, the guy who created the show, wanted to shoot in widescreen and wanted to shoot on film, but they said no. They shot 4:3 and they shot digital. So now what they're doing to make it widescreen is blowing it up.
No.
And,
I was about to say, because my favourite one is Buffy.
Yeah.
And they've doing that. They released they recently re-released a collector's edition that was Blu-ray, and they've blown it up. And it's cutting bits out of all of the scenes.
Well, this is what David Simon, he's like, if I could take my name off it, I would.
Joss Whedon's like that. He's like, I shot it in 4:3.
Yeah.
It needs to be in 4:3. You're taking, especially because there's so much the framing as well. So many like key things on the periphery of the scenes.
I can't watch stuff in 4:3 anymore.
Can't you?
No.
It is a bit difficult.
How big is your TV though, at home?
Not that big. 40 inches.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got a 42 inch, so watching something in 4:3 doesn't.
No, but I just.
How many inches?
You just can't do it.
No. But it was like when it used to
interesting.
be old school 4:3 TVs,
Yeah.
and you'd watch something widescreen, and I used to hate that as well.
Yeah.
I don't like the big black spaces.
Yeah, I'm alright.
That just
I don't
sounds a
mind.
bit-
I'd rather watch it. It used to like wind me up so much when they would show when I think like Channel 4 did it with The Simpsons and Friends.
Yeah.
They would show in the wrong aspect ratio to fit in.
Right.
Like as someone who sort of learnt like film at uni, like to watch somebody watch something in the wrong aspect ratio and not realize they're doing it.
Yeah.
Really wants
The other thing that I don't understand, and this is similar, kind of related, but shows that aren't that old, when they're being reshown, look terrible now.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Is that
You're a
standard
video
definition?
person. No, but like standard def TV these days looks all right.
It depends on how what they've done to sort of
transfer
put
or
the
whatever
transfer, like because some people put a lot of effort into it. Like if you watch I think Sky One's Simpsons are really, really good, but Channel 4 Simpsons are really, really bad.
Right.
I don't know what reason that is for
It just
that.
looks terrible.
Yeah. And Friends, now that it's not on Channel 4, looks really good now.
Yeah,
Right,
on
yeah,
Comedy
okay,
Central,
right,
Friends
right.
looks shit hot.
So
Yeah, because my missus always watches a lot of the reruns of Sex and the City.
Okay.
And it
I bet that
looks
looks
like
awesome.
So sorry.
it looks like it's been made in the 70s.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you
It's
watching?
got like a grey film over the
just
top.
terrible,
of it.
yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that was the Mad Men finale anyway. Like it was really good.
And there was another mad thing,
Now I
wasn't
feel
there?
empty, yeah. Mad Max. So we had a little out into it the other day. Yeah, it's really
I
good.
haven't seen it yet. But I really want to see that. And Pitch Perfect 2.
Yeah.
I'm
So
still...
Rich saw Pitch Perfect 2 and he really liked it. And I went to see Mad Max with Rich and Krupa, and Rich said they were on a par.
See,
Whoa.
So,
Pitch
yeah.
Perfect 2, people underestimate it. I won a bet with Adam Hopkinson, who's our director of sales.
Commercial,
Yeah. And he promised to buy me any DVD I wanted. And I asked for the Pitch Perfect 1 DVD.
What was the
Pitch
bet?
Perfect is not like an underground thing. Like Pitch Perfect is really,
I think it's really good, but you know what?
Popular.
You'd be amazed how many people are just like, oh, Pitch Perfect. Oh. No, it's really funny.
I think you're hanging out with the wrong people. All of my friends love Pitch Perfect, and I really like it.
It's really good.
What was the bet?
What was the bet?
Yeah.
Oh, basically he said, he sent around something like to do with our company's commercial performance, and he said, how many people can tell me, how many visitors we've had or what have you? And so I just did a Control F for the word visitors, found it, he said the first person to get back to me gets a free DVD. And he said, did you use Control F? I said, no.
I feel like I'm there. That was such a good story.
I know, well, there you go.
But Mad Max is fantastic. We saw it on quite a big screen, and it's just basically like a series of really awesome set pieces. And Tom Hardy's fantastic in it. Like Charlize Theron is really, really good in it.
Yeah, it's got universal kind of amazing acclaim. Apart from a couple of just
Menonists.
Well, it's just they're just sticking their oar in because they want to.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. So a lot of people. I was ignoring it until yesterday, so I read on some of them, and I think a lot of people are like they've turned it into like a feminist propaganda film.
That's the kind of the thing that people have latched onto.
But
I've seen a lot of people saying that they think it's pretty poor performance by Tom Hardy.
Really?
But I don't know.
He's really weird in it. Like he's really, really strange. But he's not like an action hero. He's not like he's really. It's really funny as well. Like me and Krupa were like pissing ourselves laughing. Like some of the stuff that he does is really, really
does
good.
It like his voice kind of veer towards Bane at times? And
no, not really.
Lovely voice.
No, never like that.
Was that what Teddy said on last week's podcast?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. No, it doesn't really. I didn't notice that.
You're debunking everything that Tilly has
Well,
said.
he barely talks. Like Max
No,
has
exactly.
got barely any lines in it. But it's really, really good, and I would suggest everyone go out and see it on the biggest screen that they possibly can.
This weekend, I mean, I need to see that or Pitch Perfect. I mean, I've got Eurovision, so maybe I can do Mad Max instead.
I think one of the best.
If you're going to see something at the cinema, surely it should be something spectacular like Mad Max.
Pitch Perfect too is.
Well, it's a musical, I guess, so you want to see something quite loud. I guess.
Why don't you go and watch both? You've got all the time in the world.
Yeah.
I do. Well, we have an extra day, don't we?
Whereas I don't. So
I'll end.
Because you have a child.
I've got 2 children.
Oh, yeah.
I'll end my Mad Max bit with my favourite of those like people who were moaning about it being feminist propaganda. I think one of them was like, I can't believe they've taken a true American hero, an American movie, and made it into a bit of feminist propaganda. It's like, yeah, that well-known American hero, Mad Max.
Swing and a miss.
Wow.
Which is really funny, yeah.
Awesome. So,
what's been rumming you up the right way?
Well, half rum, half bum.
Okay.
That's how I like to do things.
Yeah.
First, let's start with the rum.
Yeah.
And so it's airing this week. It's airing in the UK next week.
Yeah.
But I saw a preview of it.
Yeah.
The finale of Flash.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're very cynical about this TV show, but before we get onto your cynicism, I think it's one of the best things that I've seen on TV. Superhero things I've seen on TV for a long time. Very different from Daredevil.
Yeah.
Like, very different, but equally as enjoyable.
it's time to watch it.
Yeah.
And counteracting that is Arrow, which the 3rd season finale happened this week, I think, in the UK, and probably the worst season yet.
Really?
And it's still okay. It's not bad television, but the ending of it was a bit like, ugh.
Yeah.
And especially after you've watched something like Daredevil, which is not afraid to kind of, hold its punches.
Yeah.
You kind of want Arrow to go that step further, whereas Flash is not like that. Flash is much more lighthearted. It's fun, but the story's good. At the opposite end of the scale, you've got Arrow. So Flash, fantastic, and then Arrow finale was this week, I think, in the UK.
Okay.
And 3rd season, and unfortunately, it's the worst of the 3 seasons.
It's been 3 seasons of Arrow.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, it doesn't seem that long, does it?
And it's not terrible.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of crappy things about it. Now, I don't want to go into too many kind of details.
Give us
I
one
think,
crappy thing, though.
Well, there's one character in it that having looked on the internet, no one likes her. That's a clue.
Ooh.
Okay.
And it's the transformation is just ludicrous. It's like, I'll talk about it in more detail. Why not? But she's like the district attorney.
Okay.
And that's what she's been for the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And then something happens, and then suddenly, over the course of, I don't know how long a season lasts, a month?
Yeah.
Even 3 months, even if it's 6 months,
Yeah.
she becomes hard enough to defeat some of the people from the League of Assassins. It's like,
How's
what?
that happened? And without any kind of explanation or anything,
but she's training with Ra's al Ghul's daughter. But still,
Yeah.
These are people that have committed themselves to kind of killing for, years and years and trained for years and years. And it just feels...
So she trained with Talia al Ghul. So Talia al Ghul is in...
the other
different
one.
daughter.
Yeah, he gets around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that you and Rich really like Flash, but...
Yeah. So that's the other point I was going to make.
Yeah.
So the thing about Arrow is that it wants to kind of be as kind of dark as Daredevil, but never quite has the balls to do it.
Right.
And I'm not just talking in a brutal way, but not enough characters get killed off, quite frankly. Okay. And I think they should. Some of the stuff that happens, like if I lived in Starling City, Jesus, I would have moved out of there years ago. It's like every 3 years, someone's going to cripple this city. Yeah. It's like, oh my God. And a few, I would say, inconsequential characters have died.
Yeah.
But interestingly, on the is it Legends of Tomorrow's, which is the other thing. There's flashbacks to kind of them being there, and we don't know if that's because of the time travel stuff or whatever it might be. But it's like, did they not really die? Because you kind of, you had the guts to make that decision then, but then
no.
So I really hope Arrow kind of pulls it out of the bag for the next season. But Flash is completely different. It's much more lighthearted, much more fun, and it's really good.
Because I was going to say that's the point that a lot of people are making. Everyone's complaining about, Supergirl looking too lighthearted and stuff. But as far as I'm aware, the showrunner is the same for both Flash and Supergirl. And there's been loads of comparisons made between, like, the SNL spoof of Black Widow and the Supergirl show, which I think is just ridiculous because it's funny because it's Black Widow. Like, the point being this girl just wants to have a normal life.
Yeah.
No, and like, when you consider how like, some of the normal things that most of the male characters do and Flash and stuff,
it's still very much I would say it's quite in a similar vein to like the Christopher Reeve Superman movies.
Superhands movies.
Superhands, yes.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I would really watch that.
Kind of like Barry Allen, who is the Flash.
Right.
He's quite bumbling, but kind of endearing. And,
but,
he kind of discovers himself, and
and I think that's that's kind of why it's on that channel. But so that's why I'm still here for Supergirl, and I like Melissa.
We spoke about Supergirl last week.
I know.
Talking about Flash.
Well,
the second to. So I finished watching the finale this morning, and it ends on a cliffhanger, and it's like, that's interesting, and it definitely loops in some of the stuff that we've seen with Legends of Tomorrow, which I'm really excited about. I thought that trailer looked really, really good.
Did you?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Gav.
Do you like anything?
I do. I like every. I like a lot of stuff.
I don't care.
No. But I thought that trailer like. It was more like for me than it was for you, I think, because it was just like, here's so and so, this is their power, here's another, and I was like, do you need that?
Have I watched this trailer? I don't know if I have.
Yeah.
But there's definitely
there's
bits that
want
kind
to
of
like
start to pulling it together, but the episode before the finale is really, really good.
How many episodes in the series for Arrow?
23.
Yikes.
But episode 22 is like there are moments where it pulls in some other characters.
Okay.
And there are very few kind of TV shows that make me go, yes.
Okay.
And that made me do that.
That's cool.
And that's cool.
Well, there's the thing. Rich has just started watching it as well, and he hasn't stopped. He just finished it. Yeah. So he hasn't stopped going on about it either. And I think.
Well, why don't you actually watch it?
I think that's the thing. I'm definitely going to give it a go this weekend. We've got 3 days off, so there's absolutely I've got no excuse. And because of my flight to E3, I want to get into.
Oh well, that's how I got into Arrow. Actually.
Yeah.
I had the whole of the first season for a trip to San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I kind of started watching it, and then it kind of clicked.
That's how I got with Game of Thrones. Like I put all Game of Thrones. Like I had season 1 and 2, and 3 was on when I started watching it. And then,
but you should definitely watch the first 2 seasons of Arrow.
Game of Thrones.
No, I haven't seen that episode. But
First 2 seasons of Arrow are very good.
Yeah.
Because they're focused.
Okay.
3, there's so many things going on and so many changes that they're trying to introduce. But
now I know that the last bit is rubbish. Whereas Flash is still really good at the moment. So I'm definitely, by next week, I would have watched.
Be interesting to see what season 2 of Daredevil is going to be like.
Yeah.
I hope they can sort of maintain that.
I still haven't finished that.
Have you not?
I find it really hard to watch more than one episode of Daredevil at a time.
Why?
Because it's so much horrible stuff happens all the time.
Have you watched Hannibal?
No, I watched the first 3 episodes of Hannibal. Right. But yeah, that's really
that was one of my, for about 2 weeks, I binge watched on my train journey, season 1 and 2 of that. Okay. And that's not a pleasant thing to watch.
No, it's not.
Anyone who sits near you on this train is seeing you watch Hannibal and Game of Thrones. It's going to be like, what is wrong?
I think maybe I watched like 6 episodes of Hannibal, actually, because I really liked it. But the thing that made me stop watching it is like the really boring, excruciating scenes between Hannibal and Lawrence Fishburne, where just for no reason Lawrence Fishburne just comes round for dinner, and it was just like
there's a lot of that.
It's just like more excuse. Like it happened like loads of times, and I was like, it just seems like it was just another sort of excuse for Lawrence Fishburne to go, "Ooh, what am I eating here?" And I was like, chicken. Wink at the camera. It's like, all right, you're feeding him people all the time. Brilliant. It's just like that happens so many times. Like, I don't like this.
It's got some really good finales.
I've heard some really good stuff about Hannibal. Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe that. I mean, I haven't got Mad Men in my life anymore now, so I need something.
Plenty of
I
spare
need
time.
something.
Our last rum thing.
Yeah, after months of waiting, Tilly's been to the set, but we finally saw our first still from the Warcraft movie.
And it looks good.
It looks awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Industrial Light and Magic.
So it's a CG character, right?
It is. So, but played by a real person as well.
Yeah.
So
Who plays that?
I have a feeling it's Travis Fimmel, but I need to double check. It was all.
That's how you say it.
I don't think it is Travis Fimmel, but it's the character. The
You sold me.
Exactly. See how the
0.3
voice
of a
threw you
second.
off. It's the character is Orgrim Doomhammer.
Yeah.
My favourite orc.
Well done.
It's an orc.
It is an orc. Yeah.
I've heard so many good things from Tilly about the motion capture stuff. And apparently, Tilly said it's one of the best motion capture things he's ever seen. Yeah.
So I mean, the way they're kind of pitching it, it's the original story between humans and orcs and their encounter. The thing about Warcraft, one of the reasons it has such a good fan base, aside from the fact that really good games, because obviously it started as the RTS and that's when I got into it, the stories are really, really good. And one of the reasons that World of Warcraft did so well originally is because all these iconic characters, it continued their story, and so people were playing it as much as the narrative. And I personally believe the reason it's struggling now is because kind of all the characters that they've had from the RTS series, they've either died or they've disappeared, and they're struggling to establish new iconic characters that you can play with. So that's a bit of an issue it has. And these depictions of these characters are great. Like Blizzard are renowned for their cinematics, and it seems that this is going to be just as high quality.
Is it going to have pandas in it?
The panda, no. See, they don't. Well, we don't know, but I would think I would doubt it. They don't crop up properly. They crop up briefly, but they're on another continent called Pandaria.
Yeah,
of course they are.
I'm really excited for it, but I know very little about Warcraft.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I mean,
I like Duncan Jones.
The idea that they seem to be starting with is very much like this start of kind of a franchise, obviously, and they need to establish it. And in the similar way with the games started with the orcs and the humans. That's the basic thing. Yeah. And over time, other races appear, and you have the Alliance and the Horde, and that spirals. But the story that everyone knows, and I think a lot of people do think is one of the best stories in kind of games, is the Story of Warcraft 3, to do with Arthas, who's a prince and who slowly becomes corrupted by... He tries to do the right thing and becomes corrupted and gets possessed by this evil thing and becomes the Lich King. And it's a really, really strong narrative.
But that's not in this movie.
That's not in this movie, but I would imagine that this... But it's a really, really kind of... And how he portrays people who he loves.
But is that guy in this movie?
No, Arthas isn't even in it, as far as I'm aware. But so what I think they're going to do is they're going to establish the kingdom and the kind of relationships between the two, and then I would imagine the next one will maybe introduce Arthas.
You think they would have introduced that on the first one, surely?
Well,
to get you sort of into
it. They can confirm that they're doing more than one.
No, I mean, obviously they're going to see, but very much so. Rob Kaczynski, who we've had on the podcast, when he's spoken to Tilly and he's spoken to other people, he's very much said, because he actually plays World of Warcraft. He's a big fan, and he's like, yeah, no, as far as he's concerned, this is the start. Right. And then they're going to, because there is a great story, but it's the same as anything. You really do need to kind of establish the basic facts before you start building on everything, because it is a new world for a lot of people.
I'm not sure I don't know if Duncan Jones is the kind of director that would sign up for kind of multiple movies. He doesn't strike me as that kind of person.
I also don't think, even if Duncan Jones does the best possible job with that, like Duncan Jones, I love Moon, wasn't that massive a fan of Source Code,
no,
but
I'm the same. Yeah.
I just think even if he does the best job with this, it's still a Warcraft movie, and people... Like, if you ask anyone about World of Warcraft, they'll tell you, nerds sitting in their bedroom, the South Park episode. Yeah. I think they've got a really, really hard time ahead
They
of
do
them
have a bit up against them, don't they?
I would call it something else.
But the point is, this is why they haven't called it the World of Warcraft movie. It's Warcraft, and that's what a lot of people forget. That's how
no one's going to care. No, no one. Everyone's going to see Warcraft and think World of Warcraft.
I think the trailer is going to be the kind of litmus test,
because there's a lot of good stuff in there, and as I say, if they can kind of get some traction, they deliberately chose this time frame, because a little bit later on, where there's elves and all these other things, it suddenly becomes. If they started with that, I think they were concerned that people would think, oh, this is just a knockoff of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So they decided to very much focus on this.
Yeah.
And similarly, it's important to note, the orcs aren't evil, and that's something else that they're trying to do. You are following the orcs and the humans. They're both very much, you're not meant to choose a side, really.
Yeah.
And so it is a different tone. But I think if they can nail it, at least visually, they've been very true to it, and it could be absolutely incredible because the story is.
I really like the idea of like sort of like morality is a bit ambiguous and you're not sure who to side with.
Yeah.
Like we actually did a Rebel Base the other day about whether or not we're actually that's what it's going to be like in Star Wars as well. Like maybe it's not going to be like good versus evil. It's not going to be as clean cut as the other Star Wars movies. And I think like something like that is really interesting to me. Like,
Well, that's it, because you automatically think that the orcs are the bad guys.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something you have a huge issue with. Then the later Warcraft stuff, where like there are the bad guys, and yet there's all these tensions between these two who've been fighting, and there's good guys and bad guys on both sides. It is one of the richest kind of pools of lore. So if they can pull this one off, there's so much good stuff.
I think that kind of theme is going to be a big thing. Like Civil War is going to be like a massive thing, and like when you get to all that stuff in the Marvel universe, and you see everyone sort of turning in on each other, like maybe that's going to be a theme. Like there's always like general themes. Like maybe that's going to be the next theme. Ambiguous morality.
I'm excited.
Excellent.
So that is the rum stuff for this week.
Yeah.
Now the bum stuff.
Okay.
We do like bum stuff,
especially if
some
you
more than others.
are the BBC, because Rockstar has filed a lawsuit against the BBC for its GTA drama Game Changer.
Yeah.
But only for trademark infringement.
Right.
Which basically means, legalese, they're not stopping them from making it,
right,
but they are preventing them or asking them to not reference it as the GTA documentary. So I don't know how that will pan out in terms of the actual content of the show itself, but I don't think they will be able to market it the story of Grand Theft Auto.
That's the thing. I think what they've done so far, they've been really sort of, the way that it was announced was really odd. It was just sort of like buried within this little thing. And it was only because we happened to know somebody who was actually working on it that we could actually write a story on what it actually was. Because the way they came out with it was just like, oh, it's the story of GTA. And like, oh, so it's based on in the world. Oh, no, it's based on the making of it. Well, no, actually, it's based on one tiny,
is it a drama, a docudrama? Like, I'm sure, is it drama, docudrama, and then it's like a retelling of the whole fight between Sam Hauser and...
Well, that's like... Krupa and I spoke about it on a conversation yesterday, but it's the way they phrase it. It's a chapter in the iconic story. So it doesn't reference. Well, maybe it'll reference some of the early DMA design stuff from where it started, but it is literally the fight between Sam Hauser and Jack Thompson. So the president of Rockstar and the kind of legal activist in the US that hates everything that's
Daniel Radcliffe and Bill Paxton.
But some big names.
Like,
if I was Rockstar, I would totally sue the BBC if I was Sam Hauser for casting Daniel Radcliffe as like, Jesus Christ.
For defamation of character.
Is that the best you can do?
I actually really like Daniel Radcliffe as an actor. I was actually quite excited to see it. Like, what's wrong with Daniel Radcliffe?
I just don't think
he's a great actor.
What?
Which actor would play you in your story?
Kevin Smith or Dom DeLuise if he was still alive.
What? Okay.
Who would play you?
I don't know. I don't know any actors who... There aren't really many people who...
Well, who's the actor who played Dobby, the elf?
I thought you were on about in Peep Show, like, is he slutty? And I was like, don't really see that, I've got to be honest.
Who would play you?
Probably like Kevin Spacey. Someone,
that's the thing. I'm quite excited about this. One thing me and Krupa were talking about yesterday, and it was just afterwards, like, oh, should we be worried that the BBC are just going off and making these things like with our license pay money, and they might actually get sued because of it?
Well, because I tried to see, is it a frequent thing? Because obviously newspapers get sued all the time. You don't really hear about it or read about it. But I can't see that many things about the BBC being sued. But the interesting part is like Rockstar have apparently tried to kind of reach out to the BBC, so it didn't get to this point, but it's just hit a wall every single time. So I think we definitely will see it.
See, I'd heard from inside sources that the people making this had actually reached out to Rockstar as well and wanted them involved from an early thing, and Rockstar were just like, absolutely not. So I think then maybe Rockstar have come back and gone, you need to stop doing this because you've already asked us and we already said no, but now you're carrying on with it anyway, and you're marketing it massively as the story of GTA.
I mean, the reason they're doing it, right, or the supposed reason they're doing it, is they have an entire season coming on about coding, and it's
the wording of that is it's a celebration of coding, and this isn't to me. If it truly was the story of GTA, from
be a guy sitting at his computer just pressing.
But that's an amazing story.
It is a really good story.
So where it is now, a top-down game that was nothing, and then it suddenly transformed into this thing. That's incredible.
Yeah,
but it's this one little.
They've gone for the most sexual, sensationalized bit, and just gone like, this is the way we'll do it.
It is an interesting.
But yeah, we like the BBC have just gone off and made this thing. Like, is someone looking at what the BBC are doing like, with our money? Is this a good use?
Well, the BBC declined to comment.
Yeah.
We did ask. But
They've got the Royal Charter up next year, haven't they? So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think when Krupa called for a comment, there was a really, really sort of flustered press guy, because obviously this came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And they were just like, what?
we're being what? Have you not seen that? Okay.
You know, they have now issued a comment, and the comment is, we do not comment on legal matters. Like,
well, that's as good as saying nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
but that's fair enough.
It's an interesting story, and like I say, I love Rockstar, and I love their their horrible attitude towards press. I love their attitude towards the world. I think there's nobody else like them. Yeah,
if that's how you want to do it, and they've stuck to their guns all the way through.
And I really like the fact that I really like the fact that I don't think Rockstar even care about this. They're just like, do you know what? This would be really funny if we sued the BBC.
Because I think
I'd love to think that.
Like, from my dealings with Rockstar, there is no way on earth they would have ever given this the green light.
No,
themselves. Because they don't do that stuff. Yeah. Like Sam and Dan rarely do interviews. Yeah. And it's the same with the book Jacked by. I forgot the guy that wrote it. Anyway. Yeah. But that. You know, that's kind of based on a lot of interviews with people who worked at DMA ages ago compared to what it is now, and a few kind of bits cobbled together from other interviews. Yeah, like the interviews and stuff.
I saw a thing yesterday. Like the last bit is basically just an Edge interview, just rewritten and padded out.
But I don't know if that is true or not. But it's certainly, if you want the true story of that, then surely you need to be talking to the people there.
100%.
But having said that, there is a certain irony for a series of games that like satirize so much of the modern world. Yeah. The second someone tries and tells their story, like, no.
No, but I don't think there's irony in that. I think.
Well, I mean, admittedly, if it was
they've taken something which Rockstar specifically said they don't want to be involved with, and these people are taking their name. Like,
I suppose they are using their name.
They are using their name. That is the difference. You know,
because there's ways of doing it. So
satire laws.
So the Jinx, but it's not going to be a satire though. That's the thing. It's not a parody.
No. I'm on about how Grand Theft Auto does it because it's satirized.
But with the Jinx, so there was a movie made called All the Something Girls. Anyway, whatever it was called, but that didn't use any of the guy's real name or anything like that. So it was based on a story, and everyone knew it was based on that, but they didn't use the name, and that's kind of how they got around it. Whereas the BBC know that they're not going to be
Sam Houser.
Exactly, but
without their permission. So I don't really know how that kind of works in terms of whether this is the first step in many.
But I would have thought that
down the line. But
for that, like especially if you dramatize it, there's actually stuff for defamation of character in there as well.
Well, you know, who knows? We don't know.
But anyway.
Well, like the interesting thing is like Social Network. Is that was based on a book that's like Zuckerberg was just like, there's so much in that just isn't true, and then they wrote the script based on that book, and then went off and made the movie for it, and he was just like, there's just stuff that just isn't true. He's like, I've had one girlfriend. This is her. And like, you know, you see all this different stuff going on in it. He's like, some of it's just not true. Like we didn't meet there. Like, but I think the way that he handled that, he was just like, we're Facebook, so, and I think
I've got quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's
not like on the day that it came out, he took. It's
I know,
awesome
I saw
film,
that. Yeah, that was a cool thing to do. Yeah.
On the day that it came out, he took all of Facebook to see it in the like cinema with, and he sat down and watched it as well. Yeah, got a lot of time for that. Yeah.
Last bum stuff.
Yeah.
Right, so are you up to date with Game of Thrones?
No, I'm not, and I'm really annoyed about this because even though something really bad happened, everyone thought it was all right to just go, it doesn't matter about spoilers anymore because this really bad thing has happened. So I know what happened.
Okay, so do we want to go into specifics or?
Well, I wasn't going to go into specifics.
So well, let's see if we can kind of talk around it. Basically, something happens at the end of this week's Game of Thrones, which provoked quite a strong reaction that has caused some sites on the internet to now drop coverage of Game of Thrones entirely. Okay. It even had a US congresswoman say, no, I'm not watching it anymore. A lot of people have said, including celebrities have said, this is too far. Yeah. And it's a little bit tricky. Because, so your thoughts on this are?
Well, I think Game of Thrones has done a lot of stuff in the past, like 4 seasons. Like, especially, like, the bit where the dude gets his head popped open with it, against the mountain. Okay, yeah. And I was like, my God, that's too far. Yeah. And having watched this, I didn't think it was as any different from a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because
that is what Game of Thrones does. It's there to be controversial.
I mean, there are issues around. So, because they've changed stuff from the books so much in this season, I think the argument being made is they've changed it because this doesn't happen in the books. Right. It happens to someone else. The person who this stuff happens to actually doesn't even marry this person in the books.
Right.
They're not there. They're miles away.
Yeah.
And so they've chosen to do this for a reason. And George R.R. Martin came out and did a quote, and he said, I've said all along, you change one thing at the start by dropping a character, there's ripples and ripples and ripples, and eventually these ripples are going to get overwhelm you. So I think the argument people are making is, if you can change so much, why does this need to happen? We already know the character who does it is a complete and utter bastard.
But that's to me, it's like Joffrey kept on layering on levels and levels of hate.
I think the point they're making is it gets to the stage where it can just be, rank misogyny, where you don't actually, it's not adding anything from a narrative standpoint. Mm-hmm. The way it's shown is almost too obscene and too grotesque, because it's like,
Did you think that?
Well, I think the point being, you could have just shown them maybe him dragging him into the room or something. You didn't have to see the ripping off of what have you.
Okay.
And I think that's an
maybe
argument.
I need to rewatch it, because
admittedly,
I honestly I didn't think twice about it.
Because we in the UK get it a day after, I kind of felt the same, because the way people were going on about it, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be awful.
Well, I always avoid social media.
Yeah, well, and so I saw it, and then I was like, actually, the depiction wasn't quite as bad. But there's also arguments then, a lot of arguments have been to do with a woman who's been portrayed as being very strong and like suddenly finding herself brought low. And the point that was done was to give agency back to a male character who's been brought low. And so that's suddenly the moment that he snapped himself out. And it's just this whole argument that a lot of women in this show are kind of, there's scenes where women being raped are literally just the backdrop to a scene. They're just there. It's gratuitous.
Yeah.
I think my problem with it,
it's
my problem with this in general is, and I think this doesn't just happen in films or TV, it happens in like games stuff as well, where a really lazy way of showing breaking a girl down is like a rape or like a sexual violence. Yeah. Whereas, and then after that happens, then the girl sort of picks us up. Like Tomb Raider, really, really famous thing for that. So when they showed that, like they were like, the only way that they can show her, break her down to absolute rock bottom is with sexual assault, which I think is a really, really lazy thing to do. But
exactly, and it's just one of these things, I think, as well, because it's so close to this character being empowered, and you're finally thinking, this is good. And it's just like, it's not in the books, it's not, it's not, and you've taken so many liberties anyway, like, you could.
But do you think that if it was in the book, people would be like, oh, it's all right?
No, actually, so what have you read the books?
No.
So the point being, a lot of the defense that people are using is like, oh yeah, no, but in the books he does this, so it's important to his character, and a lot of people being like,
but he is
who gives a shit?
Despicable.
Yeah. And I mean,
like, it's the same feeling as Joffrey. You want him to die.
And there's the other.
I don't know what happened.
There's
He's Welsh as well.
Yeah.
Is he?
Ewan. Yeah.
I met him in a bar once.
He's in the.
Ewan
he's
Rayon,
in Misfits. So we're talking about.
He was in Misfits originally.
Ramsay Bolton, basically.
Yeah.
But he's in the new the comedy with the two old guys. Gandalf. What's his name?
Ian McKellen.
And the other old guy.
Patrick Stewart.
No, they do a comedy on BBC.
Okay.
And it's been aired, they're trailing it at the minute, and then suddenly Ramsay Bolton pops up in a completely different guise. It's like, acting.
I know.
That is acting, yeah.
He's
unless he does some really horrendous stuff.
It's just interesting, because sexual violence isn't new to the show. I mean, he cut off Theon's cock.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when he cut off Theon's cock, we were like, though, barely a day goes by when I don't see that sausage wobbling gif in the comments. It's just interesting views on sexual violence.
I think me and Krupa talked about this in the pub the other day, but I think people are a bit sick of Game of Thrones. Like, we were talking about, we're like, is it just us, or maybe we're not into it? But Game of Thrones doesn't seem to be that big this season. I think maybe, there's always a backlash against something.
There's
and
this thing
is
that, in the books, this issue he's called it the Myronese, not after Marine, which is where a lot of the characters are now. And basically, the idea being, he's moved a lot of these characters from Westeros over to Essos, and he's now like, oh shit, how do I get them back? Because they've all entwined each other, and he can't figure out how to undo it. And so that's why it's taken him so long to make it believable and stuff. And in the same, so what the show guys have tried to do, because book 5, I lost interest halfway through, and a lot of people say that's their point, where they're like, I'm done. And I think what they're trying to do in the show is, because we all agree, the first kind of 4 or 5 episodes have been really dull by and large in this series.
I thought the first 2 episodes were brilliant.
I was going to say, I thought they were okay.
Really? I just found them dull. Like, nothing's really been happening. So I think this is maybe a way of them trying to show progression and characters moving forward, but it's possibly slightly misjudged.
I don't, like I said, when I was reading a lot of people saying that they thought the first 2 episodes were boring, but like I think people misremember Game of Thrones. I think people like remember like episodes like 12 and stuff like that, like they or whatever they are, like
like 9,
like
10.
Yeah, episode 9. Yeah, I was thinking about
12 is really good.
Mad Men. Yeah, but everyone remembers like episode 9.
Yeah.
Like, they remember like the finale of that, and that's what when you talk to people, and they also remember like characters dying as well. But people, that's not what happens in Game of Thrones a lot of the time. There's a lot of sort of procedural stuff. There's a lot of like sitting down and talking. So I couldn't understand it
context to what's going to happen.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of intrigue.
So I didn't understand when people were like, "Oh, the first 2 episodes are really boring." I think boring.
I agree. I thought it was quite a
really good episodes.
Start. To me, this just feels like it's more Game of Thrones. I felt they overstepped the mark with the mountain and the viper stuff.
Yeah,
to be honest,
I did.
Yeah, I thought that I was like genuinely like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot for me to kind of go like that.
I was on holidays with 4 people who'd read the books, so they knew what was coming. And it was like we were in Spain, and they were like, "Oh, we've got Wi-Fi. Should we download Game of Thrones and watch that?" So I was in one part of the couch, and I had 4 people literally just watching me watch it. Because I was like, "Yes, this is amazing."
It was also the way it was done as well. It's like, oh my God.
For me, awesome, the bit that I always found, I still find the Red Wedding the worst, because I'd read it in the books, and I was watching it with my partner. So there's stuff that happens in the book. It's not that bad in the books. Like they don't stab her in the stomach. She's not even there.
Yeah.
Like and I was watching it. I was like, oh, he's gonna find this disgusting. Yeah. And then I'm just there, and I'm like, oh my God, like I feel nauseous. Like I felt nauseous. And Michelle Fairley, how she didn't get nominated for something for that performance is beyond me, because it is just phenomenal. And that's still I've only watched it once. I can't go back.
Well,
let's move on to
some feedback.
Feedback.
All right, here we go then. It's from Kyle Barrett. I think it's the first time he's ever written in.
Welcome, Kyle.
Says, "Hi guys and Duck Hunt. Last week Chris said the trailer for the criminally underrated Predators featured multiple predators, but the film only featured one. He's wrong. In the film, there are 3 super predators and 1 classic predator. Chris could say he was only talking about classic predators, but we all know that would be bullshit."
Classic Tilly.
Cal Barrett's starting to grow up here, isn't he?
Cal Barrett isn't messing around anymore.
He was probably mentioning the shot in the trailer in which we see lots of the iconic 3-dot targets aimed at Adrian Brody, which does not appear in the film. All right. I mean, there we go.
Chris Tilly being wrong.
Yeah.
Jack Aitken says, "I've been a listener since episode 1, way back in 2009, when I was just a second-year apprentice, and I've been more or less a constant listener." More or less?
What kind of apprentice?
A constant. Hang on a minute.
Like a wizard's apprentice.
Constant listener through to now, in which I'm serving my 3rd year as a fully qualified electrical technician.
Awesome.
Although I think the podcast has retained its quality and hilarity over the years, the lineup has changed quite dramatically. Can you do a quick run through of past members of the team through to present, and let us know where they are now and what they're doing with themselves? So I've got a little list.
Have you?
Yeah. Matt Wales is dead. Martin Robinson is dead. Stuart Reed, he died.
Oh no.
Tom Butler, I think he was in a car crash.
Yeah, dead.
Orlando, he passed away. Keza died, and Sad Dan is here, but he's dead inside.
Yeah. What about Bex? I listened to a podcast that she was in before, and I loved that.
I think she's dead.
God damn it.
That's not actually true.
They're not. Yeah, they all are alive.
They are all alive. I
Google
think.
Well, as far as we know, some of them we're not in touch with. But
a lot of them are kind of still working in the sort of video games industry.
Yeah.
In fact, Tom and Orlando went off to go and work on Yahoo Movies.
The films.
And Stu has gone off to go and do old television. Perfect for him.
Lovely.
Sad Dan still works here, but he's marketing, so he's dead to us.
So I have an email from Russ Noble, who says, which is perilously close to Ross, but not quite.
I love his nickname.
We got the Black Whisper.
Yeah. Why does he call himself that?
Don't know. It's exciting.
It's quite Game of Thrones, isn't it?
It is. So he's forgotten what the Duck Hunt thing is all about, so he'll say good day.
Just a phrase.
Yeah, we don't really know either. So my question is, with the Xbox One winning another monthly sales in April, that was in the US, do you think we'll see more and more games move over to the Xbox, and like the 360, Microsoft surpassing Sony? So many great games coming out in winter for Xbox, while Sony struggles with the lineup, and more features being added in the monthly updates. Do you think Xbox can surpass Sony's lead?
Who's going to win?
I couldn't give less.
I don't really mind.
Sorry.
It's one of these things as well, like, there's a finite pool. Like,
buy them both. Buy both consoles.
But I'm not. When did you start
like
shitting money? Like, I mean, I can't afford both. I've got a PS4. I'm sticking with it.
buy a PS4 because you get PS Plus. That's my thing. That's the only thing.
Wow, you're on the Sony shill right
Yeah.
there.
There you go.
Look at that.
Well, get PS Plus and you just don't have. You just get all the games when they come out.
So in answer, they probably
Get games for
can't.
gold.
They can overtake it, but it's one of
Rubbish
these
that is,
things.
isn't
The thing you've got to bear in mind is a lot of people want to buy the same console that their friends have got. So because Sony has the early lead, late adopters might be more inclined to buy PS4 to play with their friends. So just because
Sony has got a pretty shonky first-party lineup for the end of this year, though.
Yeah.
it does, but will Allure and the promise of Uncharted and things. Is E3 just around the corner? Morpheus is probably going to be announced.
No Man's
That's
Sky.
not a console
When is No Man's
seller.
Sky out?
Ooh, you don't know what games they've got.
Who knows?
It's out this year, isn't it?
I don't know.
Because that's one. If I didn't have a PS4 already, I'd buy No Man's Sky
Really?
for that. I'd buy PS4
have
No
we
Man's
heard-
Sky.
We haven't heard anything about that for a while, have we?
No. Well, I'm sure that'll be a big part of the
E3, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Edward Sweet, who says, with the upcoming release of the Rogue Cut extended editions of X-Men Days of the Rogue Cut, the one that everyone's looking forward to, X-Men Days of Future Past. I wanted to know your thoughts on the best and worst director's cut or extended editions. All right, this is actually a decent question.
Can you shut your whole mouth about Rogue, by the way? Anna Paquin is...
But like the upcoming release of the Rogue Cut, he talks about it as if like I should know what that is.
Do you not?
No.
Get out of this
I
room.
There's
know what
like
it
20
is.
minutes of Rogue from Days of Future Past that were cut, and Anna Paquin was like, the fuck are you doing? And
Yeah,
anyway...
I don't know what this is. My personal favourite would be either Alien Special Edition, Blade Runner The Final Cut, or Watchmen Director's Cut, with my least favourite being the Redux cut of Apocalypse Now because of the plantation scene. I would agree with him on that. Apocalypse Now thing. Yeah, it's terrible.
Why did they do that? But also,
Yeah.
Star Wars.
With
Special
yeah,
editions.
Star Wars is...
Come off it.
Yeah. He says, P.S. If you read this out, this will be the fourth time you'll have read my bit of feedback, which would technically make me a friend of the podcast.
That's true.
Everyone who listens to this podcast
Is a friend of the
friend
podcast.
of the podcast.
But
Yeah, I think
traditionally it's
Apocalypse
three
Now
or
is probably the worst. Star Wars is obviously
Some of the Star
They're
Wars
terrible.
bits...
Don't be so ludicrous.
No, but like for some of them.
Like-
There's one bit where there's a stormtrooper on the back of a banther, and that's all right.
Yeah, it doesn't make the film, does it?
No.
No, but
Like,
it's
there
just
are
like,
some,
oh, that's a nice touch.
when they
we
first
just
go
did a
into
Rebel
Mos
based
Eisley.
on this.
Right.
Like
But
seven changes that George Lucas did.
The
that
one
actually
where they
inspired.
recolored the lightsaber because they forgot to color it in, and it was white and it should have been blue. That's okay.
Right. But that's
not it though, is
but
it?
like there's
No,
all the
but
bits.
I'm
They
just
did a
saying-
lot more than
I'm
that.
just
the
saying.
Jabba scene is just awful. How
Yeah.
that ever happened.
Oh
It was
yeah,
really
okay.
bad.
I'll give you
And,
that.
You know, even like the bits like so much crap thrown into the Mos
Yeah.
Eisley when they first come in there. And it's
Yeah.
like, let's put 100 different animals going around
Yeah.
stuff. It's like,
Hayden
oh,
Christensen in the end of Jedi. That's a fun
it's
one.
Just anyway.
Thing is though,
In terms of good ones, like Aliens.
I can't think of anything like Alien.
I can't think of
I've
many
watched-
others
But
that-
now I can't. Like I actually really like Alien 3, but I don't know which cut is my favorite
Right.
because I don't know which one I've seen and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
But Blade Runner Final Cut, yeah, me, Rich, and Krupa went to watch that in the cinema the other day, and is definitely the best one.
Yeah.
Like, it just makes so much more sense when you get the voiceover out of it, and you just sort of. I don't know. It's just a much more beautiful film. I
I
think.
quite like a lot of the extended. I do like the extended editions of Lord of the Rings personally. I do feel a lot of the scenes actually do kind of
Like
add
what?
stuff to the world.
Like what?
Can't remember, but I do.
Amazing. Like, well,
really
it-
sold that
But
to
yeah,
me.
no. But at the time, I do remember because I will always choose to
in the
watch that.
Fellowship, because you see the trolls that are in The Hobbit, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're in stone. It's
Right.
little touches like that that kind of
Yeah,
bring
that's
the world
interesting. I
together.
like that. Yeah.
So I think.
But similarly,
Yeah.
I've kind of I think the last few times I watched Lord of the Rings, it's only been the extended version.
I always-
So
yeah.
I couldn't tell you the difference.
I
always think-
watched all the extended editions in a day on a weekend with my mum. By the end, we were crying and we didn't know what at.
I always think that when they do a special edition, something, it's always just for money or something.
Yeah.
So I never sort of pay them any mind or anything.
Well, that's because I used to buy. Well,
Yeah.
I bought the Lord of the Rings, and then it was like, oh no, we've got all these extra long ones with extra bits. coming
Yeah,
in.
that's
It's like,
really annoying.
So I
Yeah.
saved myself for the extended.
One of my favorite things, it kind of fits in with this, is Wake Up Ron Burgundy, which was they had so much stuff from Anchorman that there was just like. It was just like extended bits of like improv and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
they had so much stuff that they took all that and then filmed new stuff and made an entire new film.
Right.
It's properly mad. Like,
Okay.
but it's better than Anchorman 2.
Wow.
I think, yeah. It's called Wake Up Ron Burgundy. Like, I think you have to import it, but it's generally really, really good. So that's a good way of doing it.
There you go.
Well done, Edward Sweet.
Friend of the podcast.
Interesting stuff that's coming out this weekend. If you've got some spare time this weekend, are you going to go and see Tomorrowland?
Well, Tilly wasn't that keen on it.
We gave it 7.5 on IGN.
Yeah, I kind of really wanted to see it until I saw the second trailer.
Yeah.
Second trailer was terrible, and I think Tilly said like it's a kids' film,
Yeah.
which is nothing wrong with that. But he said like it's definitely a kids' film, and the first 20 minutes are really really good, but it sort of really really meanders.
Right.
I don't know.
Good idea, but not.
But George Clooney's in it. Like, I'll go watch George Clooney in anything. I think.
That's the thing, you know,
Like,
George Clooney, like Brad Bird, like, you know,
Yeah.
decent lineup.
Yeah.
But
I
that's
probably
the
will
same
see
as-
it, to be honest.
Same with Poltergeist, which is also out this week.
Yeah.
Again, good people associated with it.
Apparently
but
that's
not
a
a very good
stinker.
film.
Yeah.
5.5.
Well, the fact
on
that
the IGN scale.
Yeah, the fact that like Poltergeist is like almost like a perfect IGN film, I think.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like a horror movie, got a really good cast, and they were so like screenings just didn't happen basically. So
That's always a good sign.
Alarm
yeah,
bells.
but
And then finally, if you're into games, well, there's nothing coming out.
yeah,
Unless you're playing Destiny and House of Wolves is out this week.
Yay.
And you're probably playing it already. But if you're not,
yeah.
we've got something for you.
What have you got?
If you're watching the podcast, you can see it. If not, I will describe it to you. We've got a Ghost edition of Destiny to give away. On
big box, man.
It's a big box. You get the Ghost replica, the little red Peter Dinklage.
I was going to say
thingy.
it doesn't come with Peter Dinklage's lackluster vocals.
Do you think he might fit in there? Do you think he's in there?
That's probably offensive. We did say, like, when I asked you before we recorded the podcast what was in it, I was like, what's in that box? Is there PS4 in it? And on the top it just says Xbox One.
That would be funny if there was.
But there's not an Xbox One in either. So.
No. But you can't buy these anymore. This is a money can't buy prize unless it's on eBay and somebody's charging you too much.
Yeah.
By the way,
So-
please don't put it on eBay. You get it.
Well, if they win it, it's entirely up to them what they
Yeah.
do with it.
Yeah.
So you can win. We've got an Xbox One edition of the Ghost edition to give away, and
Right.
then we've got 2 PS4 editions and 2 Xbox One editions of the limited edition. I don't know what you get in that, but anyway,
We're giving
5
away a
copies
bunch of Destiny.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the story, don't worry.
So if you've not played any of Destiny or you want to get into House of Wolves,
Should, it's really good.
now is the time.
Yeah.
Now I've done no prep work on as to how people can win this stuff.
All right.
So what should we get people to do?
I don't know.
Are you serious?
I thought we could just get them. Like, why do you deserve to win? That's the.
Why is it
box,
your
by the way.
destiny to win Destiny?
I like it.
And let us know. IGN_UKfeedback@IGN.com. Is that
Correct.
right?
Mark your
It is.
emails, Destiny
Boom.
Comp. We will need your name, your email address, your phone number, and also please specify which format you
Yeah.
want.
You've got to be over 16 as well,
Why 16?
because that's what it says on the box.
Nice, good one, Gav.
There'll be full terms and conditions on the site because I
Yeah.
think competition rules mean that you have to be 18 or over.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. I might have made that up.
Look, you've got a week to get your entries in, so hurry up and do that, and
Yeah.
then we'll take a look at them within the next couple of weeks, and then we will announce the winners.
And then you
Excellent.
will receive it.
That's it for this week's podcast.
awesome.
Peter Dinklage says goodbye.
Should have put air holes in.
Should I? Well, yeah, maybe.
Oh, poor
Yeah.
dude.
Never mind. There we go.
Thanks for listening, as always, and we will be back same time next week. Until then,
Thank
goodbye.
Enjoy Eurovision.